So what I'd like to do is just sort of jump in and go through the contract, like I mentioned to you before, Will. So you guys will know all the paperwork. So even hopefully this deal works out and everything. But if not, the next time it'll be fast and really easy. And this is something that's important to understand is to go through and make sure you guys understand all the documents and paperwork. So what we'll do is we'll sort of go through these and Brandon's already pre-filled them out. There may be a few things we tweak as we go or fix after we get off the phone and come back and send to you. So here's the main documents that we're going to go through and send in .loop. And as a reminder, when you get these to sign, .loop will ask you to sign up and, put in your email and a password. Skip that every time, or else you're going to have to put it in every time. So everything we send you, you can just sign right from your phone or from your computer. And then it's going to, when it's done signing, it's going to be like, hey, sign up for an account. And there should be a little skip or just close out the browser and you're done. You don't want to sign up because it'll make it a pain every time after that. So just FYI. So here's the documents as we go through. We're going to hit some of these really fast because they're not important to the contract. The first one is a RECAD. So this is just a document where Brandon is a licensee. You're going to sign something. It's a state required document that lists the 4 ways you can be represented in the state of Alabama. A single agent, which is what we are, where we give advice. A sub-agent, nobody uses anymore. Too lazy to take it out of the law books, though. Limited consensual dual agent would be if you were buying one of our listings, then we would represent both parties. Or a transaction broker who does paperwork and does not give advice. These 9 bullets say all realtors have to be honest and not lie, etc. You can read through those later if you want. So you'll just sign this when you get it. And like I said, it's just a state required document. The buyer agency agreement is an agreement with you guys and Carnival. Like we said before, we don't really push paperwork till it's time to put an offer in. And so you'll see it's an agreement between you and Carnival, not you and one of us as an agent, because the brokerage actually holds the agreement to represent you, not the individual salespeople. Scope of service, it just says we're going to do due diligence. You can cancel at any time. We put in here about 6 months because we don't want to have to fill these out every couple of weeks if this deal falls through, but you can cancel any time, so it doesn't matter how long we put in there. Brokerage fees, you'll notice the important one, it says that you owe me 3%. However, please note that in the MLS and pretty much everywhere, that's paid for by the seller. Because remember, we talked before about this, that the seller is the selling agent or the listing agent has agreed to get 6%, and they're going to split 3 and 3. So you can see examples of the only times that might come into play would be like a for sale by owner, which usually we've been working with you 6-7 months, showing you stuff, whatever it may be, and then all of a sudden you guys find this FSBO and you love it, and the owner's like, I'm not working with an agent. That would be an example of a time where you may pay commission. However, in 13 years, that's never happened. So just to walk you through that. The rest of this is just the agreement, not contract, between our company and yours, or and you guys. Agency disclosure just says you saw the RECAD I showed you earlier. Limited consensual dual agency explains if you were to buy one of my listings, that we would have to represent both people honestly and not give secrets away. Indemnification just says you're going to hold us harmless from expenses if there's a problem, etc. Just standard type disclaimers. And alternative dispute resolution says that if there's a problem, we won't sue each other. It'd go to binding arbitration first. I think you sign that stuff with your work when you go now. Everybody's doing that. And the disclaimer goes back a little bit to what we talked about with buyer beware, that you realize that we are not experts in law, tax. I'll skip financing because technically I have that license too, but surveying, engineering, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Structure, condition of property, that one's important, right? Because when you go do a home inspection, if Brandon or I blurt out, oh no, that's not asbestos tile, and you buy it and it turns out to be asbestos tile, we're going to come back and say, hey, remember we had diarrhea of the mouth, but that wasn't my fault because I'm not an expert in these things. Even though technically I think you could still hold us accountable. But just remember, our job is to negotiate contracts and show you homes, not tell you what materials are on the floor. So that's pretty much that. Do you have any questions on this one?
Nope.
All right. Finance sales contract. So this is the one we're going to spend all of our time on because it's the most important and it's an actual contract that's between you and the seller, and it has legal ramifications more so than any of the others. So we'll sort of walk through these. Like I told you before, you will not hurt my feelings to say, yeah, I got it. And that'll tell me skip to the next number or next letter. So this is an agreement between you guys and the Real Estate Trainers of America appears to be on the MLS who owns this. So probably some LLC, and he was redoing it under. This gives you the address and all the information that they can go look up. We may come back and add the legal description, which is the parcel number in there later. The sales price, 192. Let's come back and talk about price later. We'll walk through the contract right now. Earnest money, 1,500. Of course, that's negotiable. You guys will probably be doing a conventional loan, so we'll put conventional here. If not, and you want to do something else, we can do that. We leave these two blank because it's none of the seller's business how much you're putting down. And also, we don't want to lock you into putting something down if you want to change your mind later and put more money in. So we'll leave those blank. Now, you will apply for a loan within 5 working days. That's a standard, again, negotiable, but that gives you 5 days to go shop, do whatever you want to do before you lock in a rate. And that's pretty important right now. I will say that some places are jumping up to about 45 days to get closed. We can still push through in 2 or 3 weeks if we have to, but it is getting busy. And no kidding, busy with the rates like they are right now. So you don't want to spend too long before you give all the documents and say lock in. Once the loan is, once the contract is solidified and signed by all parties, meeting of the minds. 2, settlement charges. So this says there is no funding fee. That would be for like a VA or FHA. So did we want the seller to contribute any of your closing costs?
I put 2,000 in the estimated close. That's obviously I was going to talk to you guys about that.
But so let me pause then on this. Here's how it works in the pros and cons. Obviously, if you get them to give you money, that's phenomenal. They are going to help towards your closing cost, which means your money goes towards the house price instead. It is fairly common to ask for some money, but I think what is the list price?
2,048.
Yes.
Is that it?
Yeah. So we're looking at a $13,000 drop in the offer, which is fine. And I actually know the other agent. I was telling Brandon a little bit about him. He's a businessman. We're not going to hurt his feelings. However, he's not going to be like a normal seller that gets emotional, but he's also going to be looking at a bottom line probably as he goes about selling this for his client. If he's not the one that owns it with that. Well, he would have to list that on the MLS if he did. So usually when it's not a person, they're going to be very business oriented. So remember, for him, it's a bottom line. You're already coming in $13,000 less than the asking price. And if you ask for $2,000 in closing costs, and to him, that's $15,000 less. Doesn't mean you can't do it. Just want to realize sort of what that looks like to him as he thinks through this. And you guys can think about it and come back later and say, hey, let's put this much down. Once we've gone through the contract. So if you know a price, we'll leave it. Otherwise, we'll be blank and we'll come back. All right. Survey. Any questions on that?
No, just got to think about it. I don't want to do too much to bring this process along, like get greedy and end up losing the golden goose sort of thing.
Correct. That's right. Somebody else comes in. All right, we'll come back. So survey, nobody's going to require you to have a survey. If you want to have a survey, you can get a survey, but you're going to pay for the survey. Conveyance, they're going to give you what's called a general warranty deed. A general warranty deed is a standard deed, what you and I would call a deed or something to a home. And they're going to make sure that it's free from any lawsuits, that there's no like tax issues or easements going on, all that stuff. And that's what they do through what's called title insurance. So you're going to have 2 types of title insurance. It's going to have an owner's policy and a lender's policy. The lender's policy is a required policy. The owner's policy is highly recommended, but that's negotiable. They won't tell you it's negotiable. Everybody's just going to throw fees on that estimated close and what's called a CD, a closing disclosure. Everybody throws all their fees on there. Everybody throws fees at the other side. We've had realtors on other companies throw fees against me And I'm like, are you kidding? Take that junk off. And we all just throw fees and see if it sticks. It's like playing darts, at least for me, because I just throw and see if it sticks. I'm happy if I can get it in the board, right? So that's how these fees work. So look at everything and be like, what is this for? Make sure you get an answer. That's another important thing of working with somebody you know and trust, because they're going to throw all sorts of things out there and tell you that, act like it's good for you and it's normal. Feel free to ask. But those are the two ones that go in there. The point of that title insurance is if they miss a lawsuit or something against it, like say an HOA, the guy wouldn't mow his yard, and the HOA said, you better fix that, and he didn't fix it. They can go put a lien against the house. Then when they go to sell it, that seller's got to pay the lien. But if it gets overlooked and you buy the home, the lien does not transfer with the prior owner. The lien sticks on the house, so now you've got a new lien. Well, if you have owner and title policy, then it's covered, and the insurance will cover the cost of the lien. And that would be probably a cheap one compared to maybe an air conditioning guy that puts a lien on the property. So just to explain how that part works. Closing and possession, what date would you guys like to close? Y'all thought about that?
Yeah, so we'll have all cash in hand.
Okay.
I believe it's August 16th. And I'm going to put a call in to the apartment tomorrow, but I spoke with the lady last week.
Okay.
She was saying that we can pay termination fees and give a 60-day notice, and we can be out of the apartment in 60 days. So if this goes through, I mean, I can basically start the 2-month egg timer.
Okay. So we are here
from August 16th.
From August when?
16th is when we'll have cash in hand for 15% down.
Right, but you'd more like to close like September, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that, I mean, that gives you a full month because we're basically at the end of July. So if you close September 1st, then you would not owe a payment on your house until November 1st.
Yes.
So is that good?
Yeah, that works.
Yeah. Now, if you close anytime in September, you'll get the rest of that month plus all of the next month without a payment. So if you close September 1st, you almost get 2 full months. If you close September 30th, then you're only going to get a month and a day. So anytime you close here, no payment until November. So
right. Yeah, September 1st works for us.
Now, a lot of people, obviously that's a Sunday. A lot of people like to close like on a Friday, so they have time to move that weekend.
Okay.
So
yeah, that works.
Okay, we'll throw it down
September
now.
6th.
Think about it as we finish and send it over as you're signing. You guys can discuss offline. Y'all don't have to discuss necessarily in front of us and figure that out now. So possession is going to be given at closing. That just means whatever the closing date is when you get it. Now notice this date can be seen multiple ways. Legally, whenever you see the words time is of the essence, that means whatever time that's built in there, date, if things go past it, then something happens. That's a legal terminology. Notice you won't see that anywhere here about this 9-6. So there's 2 rules of thought by lawyers, not by realtors. Lawyers and judges set these things. One is the contract's dead on the 7th if you don't extend it. That's what lenders go by. So if the closing, something happens and it drags out to the 8th, or that would be a Sunday, the 9th, they're going to want an extension signed by everybody because they want to make sure that the deal's real. Some people will say, well, it doesn't have time is of the essence, and if it slides a few days, it's still a valid contract. So just realize that there's no real answer to that. People go both ways. I guess the lender wins because he's not giving you money unless there's an extension. So, and that's how almost every lender is. So, agency, let's see, the listing company. What was their company? Cry Like. There you go. Yep. All right. So this says the listing company is an agent of the seller, and it's Crylike, and Carnival is an agent of the purchaser. And so that's just going over the stuff that we've talked about before already from the prior. Okay, here's the most important one. So when we dive into section 4A, this is going to be one we come back to. This is where all these contracts blow up and people sue each other over. This causes the most confusion in the home inspection. So if I lost you guys earlier, even though I know I'm like a great orator, wake up, take another shot of whiskey, whatever, and focus on 4A because this one's important. Of everything we talk about, this is probably the most important. Condition of the property. So this says the seller agrees to deliver built-in appliances, heating, cooling, electrical, gas, plumbing, and septic. And here's this nice gray legal word, in normal operating conditions. So everybody can argue all day long, right? We built these contracts to get everybody to sign them. If we made them to one side or the other, then people may not sign things. So we try to make them nice and loosey-goosey so you can believe it means this when really the other guy believes it means this. And normal operating condition could be tape over the window that keeps air from coming out. It's now the HVAC is operating normally, right? And you guys can argue about it later, and we'll smooth it over to get to the end because realtors want their money. And that's the most important thing in this contract is that we get paid, right? That's what it's going to feel like. So the point of this, though, is when you look at this, notice what's not in there. Flooring. Have you ever seen windows when the seals crack and they get moisture inside of them? That's not in here.
Yeah.
Well, is that really heating and cooling? No, it's not, because the home heats and cools normally. Even if the window has a busted seal, that doesn't affect it. Insulation. So your guy comes in, he goes up in the ceiling, and there's like next to no insulation in the attic, and you're thinking, well, that's not right. That's not up to code. Go back to 4A. Nothing in here says anything about code. The only code that will apply is like fire and safety, because that is a safety issue. And in the inspection addendum, we're going to add in to 4A health and safety. So those type things aren't in here. Water heaters, you know, the little expansion tanks you've seen on some of them. If they don't have the little expansion tank, that's a code issue. Nothing in here requires that to be done. Rotted wood, if it has wood trim outside and something's rotted, so what would that fall under? When you come back, you're going to get an inspection, and that guy's going to list out all this stuff. And some's going to be very obvious. Toilet keeps running. The little valve won't stop. Okay, that's a problem with plumbing. It's not normal operating condition. There's a drip. Electrical light doesn't work. A fan doesn't operate. The washing machine, or it wouldn't be a washing machine, but dishwasher, it's not draining. Those are obvious. You're going to get some, though. You're going to come back to us and say, well, I want this fixed. And I'm going to say, well, go back to 4A and tell me what it fits under in your opinion. Hint, hint, maybe safety, maybe whatever. You know, we might sort of help you with that, but you're going to need to come back. We need to fit everything into one of these. So as you guys look through the home, it's really important that you tell Brandon, here's things that we want fixed that weren't in here, like the floor. I think he mentioned there was a popping part on the floor when you walked over it. Well, that's cosmetic. It doesn't fit in the condition of the property here. So that needs to be put in this contract. Does that stuff make sense? I want to make sure you guys understand this, because this one is one that can cause problems.
Yeah, so we come back to you after the home inspection and basically say whatever they listed and how we perceive that to fit under 4.
Correct.
To see if we can get it fixed.
Yep. So you're going to go get a home inspection. If everything's pretty good, just some minor stuff, that's probably all you'll get. Do recommend a radon. I'm going to tell you that now. I don't know if you can see it over there, but let me turn, and I'll do the Vanna White right here. Can you guys see this?
Yeah.
That's a little radon detector that's always on. So when I wave my hand over it, it's called Air Things. It thinks and it's thinking, and it'll turn green or red here in a second. And it's always monitoring radon. So radon is a fast aside. If it's over 4.2 picoliter something per whatever, it's a measurement of how many particles is in the air, and radon is a cancer-causing radioactive material that can cause cancer. So if there's radon in the house, you do a radon inspection, and it's over 4.2, the seller is required to put in a mitigation system if he wants to sell the house. I came into mine, and it was 24.3.
Wow.
Geez.
Way up there. So we had to go back and forth on it, and I ended up putting my own mitigation system in because I'd hammered them on price when I bought the house. However, the flip side of that is I've seen them be around 1 or 2, and then somebody measures it later, because radon changes day to day, and it jumps up to 15 and it jumps back down. So I really recommend that not only do you do a radon inspection and hope you have radon, that's a good thing because now they have to fix it, right? If it comes in at 3.5, you're like, oh, is that like 3/4 of a pack of cigarettes a day? I mean, that still causes cancer. So, you want it at 0 point something. So the best thing we can get is actually to have radon. So don't be upset if you get radon. That means we go back and say, put in a radon mitigation system, and now it's going to drop really low. So we added ours in, and it does well, but I still monitor it just in case. So that's worth $150 to get, for sure. My little aside on radon. So you come back, you do your home inspection and say, hey, look, we need to get, there were some electrical concerns. So you bring an electrician in, you keep bringing people in till you're happy with the home. At that point, you're done, and we take all these inspections, and I'm going to send you a little templated email, or Brandon will, and it'll say, please take all these inspections and go back and compare them to section 4A, and we're going to list this out for you. And you need to fit everything in to which thing you think it fits in. And if you have some you're not sure but you want done, we ask for them. Nothing says you can't ask for things outside of this. The seller is only agreeing to fix things though here, right? So if rotted wood
it's
outside,
just we can't legally throw the contract back at them unless it falls under one of
Correct.
these categories. We can ask for anything we want though.
you absolutely can. So you can come back and ask for a new window to be put in, and they can say, nope, we're going to stick to the other stuff. Now, if you come in and say, hey, the radon was high, fix it, and they say no, then you can say, good, give me my earnest money back and let me out of the contract. And they can let you out. Okay? Because you can't force a seller to spend $4,000 if he doesn't have it. And he's not going to, maybe we negotiate so hard he's got no money left to spend, right? So he has to be able to back out and say, I can't do that, and let you have your earnest money back. So although you don't get the money back for the inspections and you don't get some of the other money back, so you're out money a little bit. But I just want to really make sure you understand 4A because it's important.
That makes sense.
What was the home built prior to 78?
No, 83 or 85.
Right. So here we're going to remove this contingency. And when you sign it, you're going to initial here and you're removing that. It just says it could have been built with lead paint. And if it was pre-1978, I'll give you this little protect your family from lead brochure, and it's going to say, don't eat the paint on every page. Don't eat the paint. Don't let your kid eat the paint. Don't let your dog eat the paint unless you don't like your dog. And so it's going to go through those things. C, this one's important. It's up to you to get a wood infestation report, which some people would wrongly or narrowly call a termite letter. It's really an WDO letter, wood destroying organisms letter, because it's not just termites, it's bugs and beetles and molds and mildews and whatever things. And so you're going to have to come in and get that. We have a guy that does it for $45. They're going to come in and say, oh, we got a bond with Cook's Pest Control. Use them. And you're going to say, oh, that's great. And they're going to be $140 or $120. Don't use them. It's only good for 30 days. Go with my guy. He's cheap, $45. But you can go with who you want on that. And don't forget, once you buy the home, that's only good for like 30 days. You need to get it under a bond.
Gotcha.
You get into the home. So remember that. If you're taking notes, right, after closing, get bond. And then you can write next to that, ask Robbie who's cheap and does a good job, because we have a guy for that too, that you're free to look into. So just remember that part. And we're going to do that about 1 to 2 weeks out. We'll get that done before closing. Additional property inspections. You do want additional property inspections. Even if you don't, we're going to mark you do, because if you mark you don't, you're done. Do, you can do it or not. And always get property inspections. E, this is one of those I told you about. It says neither the seller nor licensee make any representation or warranties regarding the condition of the property. I'll stop quoting it at that point. But you can come down here in the middle and see. It's talking about age and size of this thing, construction materials, floors. Remember that whole buyer beware? This is saying it's up to you guys in the state of Alabama to make sure you understand the house and you're happy with the home. We're the only state that does it this way out of all 50. And so you just need to make sure that you don't trust any of the realtors, anybody. Go get your own inspectors and make sure you're happy on it. Final
Okay.
inspection, after you do you'll get your home inspection, you'll do, get the report, you'll put together a request for repairs, you negotiate it. Once they sign it, then a day or two prior to closing, you're going to go back into the home with Brandon and make sure that all the things that they agreed to do are done. And then
Okay.
we'll go to closings. That's final inspection. Disclaimer, again, realtors are protecting themselves. Seller and purchaser acknowledge they have not relied upon the advice of any real estate licensee relative. And look at all these things. And if you read all these things, at the end, you're going to go, what did you do? If you're not reliable for any, or, you know, if I can't rely upon you for any of this, like notice construction materials, the age and square footage of the improvements, because I don't trust my measuring abilities. How about this one? There's another good one. There we go. On number, what is that? 8. The investment or resale value of the property. That one always gets me. I'm like, I thought that's what realtors do, is run comps, and say if it's good or not. But
Watch the
here,
market or something.
notice you're not trusting me for my value of this property, is what it's saying, and you're signing. The bottom line is lawsuits. This is McDonald's and people spilling hot coffee. Just realize what we are here to say and what we aren't. Conventional financing says that we are going to split the title insurances, and that if you go get an appraisal that's required by the lender, and it is, then the appraisal does not determine the value of the home. It's covering the lender's investment. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Yes.
Simple understanding would be you buy a $100,000 home and you put $40,000 down on the home. And you don't do anything in the contract. If the property came back and was only worth 80, contractually you would still have to buy it because you're bringing 40. So that means the bank's only loaning 60, and they said it's worth 80, and the bank's happy with that because they're covered. You are not happy because you just lost $20,000, right? And threw it down the drain. So we're going to have some wording in here that says it must appraise for the sales price or not. And if it doesn't, then you have they have the option to drop price, or the deal's dead and you can back out, or you can renegotiate. It opens the door back up. So just realize that. Proration, everybody pays their own taxes. Taxes go from October 1 to November 30th, 31st, whatever the last day of November is. So this owner, if you close in September, or what would we say, October?
September.
September.
September?
6th, I believe.
Okay, so if they close in September, then they're going to pay 11 and a half months to you at the table so that you can pay the taxes when you have to pay them. Because we pay in arrears here in Huntsville. So they're going to basically give you the money. You're going to give the money to the lender. The lender's going to grab the money and hold on to it in what's called an escrow account. And they're going to pay taxes for you because the lender does not trust people to pay taxes on their own or insurance. And they don't want to lose the property over a lien because you forgot to pay your taxes. So that all comes out of the mortgage. Risk of loss, this just says seller's going to keep insurance until it's done. Here's the second most important one, mostly for the ladies, but it's the second most important one. Number 9. This causes it doesn't kill deals. It causes lots of angry, separated closings where they no longer want to close together. Here's the bottom line. If it's nailed, glued, taped, screwed into the wall, or somehow permanently affixed to the house, it is part of the home. We have gone in and listed, and this is a huge list, right? Heating, cooling, water heaters, doorbells, mantles, light fixtures, bulbs. We have listed everything as realtors that we have seen lawsuits and frustrated people over. Window treatments is probably your biggest one. You go in and look at a home and it's gorgeous, and this is where the arguments happen. And the ladies look at these beautiful curtains that are on the house and they think, I love those curtains. It's going to go so great with my stuff. And then you walk through the home the day of closing and you're like, where's my curtains? They took the curtains. And then you're calling up Brandon and I going, my curtains aren't there. And we're like, oh my gosh, hey, where's the curtains? She's like, oh, she took them with them. But you can't. They're part of the house. It says here, window treatments and hardware. And that's everything. When they say window treatments, they mean everything tied to the wall stays. And then the lady's like, well, I spent lots of money on those. Those aren't staying with the house. And it's like, well, yeah, they are staying with the house. And then we're back into this, who's going to give first to go to closing today? And all the realtors are like, we just want to get paid. Good Lord, somebody buy the woman some curtains. And And, usually if you hold out long enough, we can get realtors to pay for things. They're ready to go to closing.
In this case, the listing agent, right?
That's right. That's right. And then, yeah. So you can read through these to sort of get an idea. Maybe it'll knock you out tomorrow night when you can't go to sleep or something, to understand like what things stay and what things don't. Satellite dishes do stay. Just remember the bottom line, if it's attached, the one that wouldn't be is this security components. Technically they do, but I see it all the time that they pay for an upgraded system like Arlo's, right? They take them with them every time, even though technically it says, hey, it's a security component supposed to stay. So just look through there and make sure that there's nothing. We're not going to put it in the contract. What we do is we get the contract done, and then right away we send a little email to the other realtor and say, hey, by the way, we love the blinds and we want to make sure those are staying and not an issue. So please work with your seller to make sure they understand that. We just get that off at the pass if there's anything big that you want. All right, we're going to go back to fast-ish sort of mode. 10, seller warrants. This just says they don't know of any public assessments where the counties come in and said, we're getting ready to take part of your driveway to build a road or whatever. Take part of your backyard to put in a baseball stadium, which happened in Madison. Default. So this is a big one. If you decide not to go through with this and you just were like 5 days out from closing and like, you know what? I don't know what we were thinking. We don't want to be homeowners. We don't care about the American dream. We just want to be renters and make other people rich. That's all we ever want in life. And we want out of this contract. And I'm going to say, okay, that's not a good idea. You're in a contract that's legally binding. And you say, we don't care. We want out. I'm going to say, talk to a lawyer. And I'm going to send you over to a lawyer to call to make sure you understand everything. It is not ever just earnest money. It can be, you hurt my feelings and I want $50,000, right? Whatever that lawyer, it's just a typical lawsuit. You know, we live in a very litigious state. So if you ever do want out of a contract, you always want to find something contractual to get you out of the contract. Does that make sense?
Mm.
Don't just say, I don't want it anymore. That's bad. And we're going to say, go talk to a lawyer. So trust account, the earnest money will usually we ask it down in additional provisions for the selling or the listing agency to hold the earnest money in their trust account. Now, whether we hold it, they hold it, or the closing attorney holds it, it doesn't matter. That money cannot leave the trust account until both parties agree. So let's say there's an electrical, a radon. Let's go back to radon. It was high. They say, we're not fixing it. You say, I want my earnest money. And this is like worst case scenario. They say no. You're like, are you kidding me? It's health and safety. Everybody's going to be in agreement with you that they should give you the earnest money back, but they're being stinkers. Just because you are in the right and everybody would agree with you still doesn't mean you get your earnest money back. Both of you have to sign a mutual release agreeing who gets the money. If you don't, the money sits at whoever has the trust account, and they get to earn interest for the next 20 years, or they can interplead it to the court. Most realtors say, I'll keep it until somebody tells me, because I can make a little bit of money. I'll make $5 every quarter off of that $1,500. So money just sits there until everybody agrees. Usually I've been in one deal where people didn't agree in 13 years. Most all the time, people try to follow the contract for the most part. It's just those outliers that can hurt you. But I do want to warn you about it. Terminology. A day, if anything says that time is of the essence, a day would be Monday through Friday, not 5, not close of business, but 11:59 p.m. before we hit midnight. Where you're going to see this being important is in the inspection addendum. It's going to give you 10 business days. Time is of the essence. That means you have 10 days, Monday through Friday, not including weekends, to get all your inspections done. And then you got 3 more days after that to turn in your request for repairs. If you miss it, things are going to happen. Here's the days that don't count. Electronic signatures say that if it's an electronic signature like .loop, it's fine. This says it's in the entire agreement. Additional provisions. Here's stuff that we add in. We want the listing broker to hold the earnest money. We don't want to hold it. Property must appraise for purchase price or greater. We talked about that. If it does not, the seller can reduce price and go to closing. So in our $100,000, it's only worth 80. They can drop it to 80 and go to closing. Most of the time, the seller does that, or they just pull the property off the market. Because if one appraiser said it's 80, Usually the second appraiser is going to say it's 81. He's going to be right in the same ballpark because they're using the same comps. Or the seller could cancel the sale, give you your earnest money, and go try to do something else. We want a clue. A clue is an insurance agreement that tells you the last 3 years, all the insurance claims. It's just good to know. 1, did they make any claims? 2, were they paid out? And 3, did they fix it? Right? We want to know those things. Because if they didn't fix it and they got money for it, then you can't claim it down the road. Think, what are you talking about, Robbie? I'm talking about roofs. We have lots of hail and we have lots of tornadoes. So hail comes through, tears up the roof, but it's not leaking. They say, give me money. They get $5,000. They take their $5,000 and say, no, the roof's not leaking. It just looks bad. Let's buy a boat. And they go buy a boat with their $5,000 and they're out skiing on the lake. You buy the house a year later, tornado comes through, lifts your roof off and sets it back down. It's leaking like crazy. You go to your insurance agent and say, hey, it's leaking. I need a new roof. He says, absolutely. An hour later, he says, hey, he calls you up. We got a problem, Will. What do you mean we got a problem? Am I going to get a roof? If you pay for it. And you're like, but that's why I have insurance. Yeah, well, we found out there was a claim and they never fixed it. And so now I can't pay you for it. But they were Alpha. I'm Allstate. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's not how it works. It's all back to this thing called LexisNexis. And they track all the stuff. And man, I hate this. Gosh, this is so tough. Your realtor sucked. Did he not get a clue? And then they start throwing us under the bus. So that's why we get a clue. Now, what type windows were in this house?
They were wooden, but they look.
So we're going to leave this in. Wood windows. Wood windows have a propensity to swell shut or to be painted shut. So remember back to 4A, heating, cooling, plumbing, electrical, HVAC, septic, and appliances, normal operating condition. We're going to add in health and safety. Did you hear me say windows? No. So you come into a house, and this has happened before. This is in here for a reason because I got burned by it. This is why you like experienced agents or agents on a team with an experienced agent, right? Because we had this deal. This is early on in my career. And we said, oh, the windows are swollen shut. We couldn't get them open. You need to fix it. And the other agent said, nope, not fixing them. Well, you got to fix them. The windows don't open and close. And he's like, well, show me in the contract where it says I have to fix the windows. The only windows that have to be fixed are all windows have to be lockable for safety. And bedroom windows have to be openable for fire.
Mm-hmm.
Living room and kitchen windows don't have to open. They can be glued shut, nailed shut, screwed shut, done. So we add this in just to make sure they're all in normal operating condition. Do you want a home warranty?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll add it in. Might as well. See what we get. Home warranties are darned if you do, darned if you don't. Go do your research on home warranties. I tend to use 2 companies, Old Republic, and they have pretty good reviews. And then it used to be Home Warranty of America, but I don't use them anymore. I forgot America's Choice Home Warranty, I think is the other one. I like America's Choice now a little bit because you get to pick your own contractor to do the work, which is nice. And the other one that I mentioned, I already forgot the name of. They send somebody out that they want. So here's how they're good and bad. You come in, you get a home warranty, you don't get the upgraded version, the air conditioner dies. They come in and look at it and they say, oh, you have rusty pipes. That's pre-existing condition. We don't cover it. And you're like, are you kidding me? You guys are filthy scum. And you don't get your new air conditioner. Or you go ahead and upgrade and you pay that extra $100 and now you're about $650 and it covers pre-existing condition. And they say, great. They look at it and say, yeah, you have a train, right? Nothing stops a train. Train dies. It was 25 years old, lived a nice, long, healthy life. Finally got to put it to bed. They come out and say, yep, it's dead. We're going to get you a Goodman. And you're like, I don't want a Goodman. I want a train. Okay, we'll give you $1,200. Are you kidding me? I paid $600 to get this thing. So what happens if you keep it 2 years? You've already spent $1,200. Now that's all they're giving you is $1,200 for a Goodman. You don't get that $5,000 train that's going to last another 25 years. Research these home warranties. Understand now where they're good at. A leaky pipe or something busts. Your fridge goes out. That's phenomenal. You get a new fridge. That pays for itself. air conditioners can be crappy. I just had a house. If I had bought the home warranty, I thought about it. I didn't get one because I didn't want to spend $780 for the top of the line Old Republic that covers 2 fridges and all the square footage and all my 2 units because I have 2 stories and everything that goes with it that you have to get to cover everything. And then I still didn't get the top end that covers galvanized pipe in the ground or in your house. Guess what's clogged up? I had to replace all my piping because of I'm plugging up. Sorry, I don't do 2 things at once. My headphones just beeped, saying you're getting ready to die. So the galvanized pipe usually isn't covered unless you pay for the galvanized pipe upgrade. Make sure you read that and know what they cover. Call them, get on the phone with them, spend some time. If we get them to agree to the 580, just make sure you know what they're good for and what they're not and how you have to use them, or else they won't pay. There's a lot of fine print. I just give you some advice there. So this one will probably take out, the seller may select closing attorney. We're just going to put 6, and we can probably talk Victor into this. He won't care too much. He doesn't tend to get anal over this stuff. Victor is the other agent that I know. We're just going to put closing to take place at Brinkley and Brinkley. Unless you have a different attorney you want to use. I like Brinkley because they're the cheapest in town and they get the job done. They do a good job. They're on time. You can call them and get help if you need. And they have an easy 533-3333. So if you have questions, just call 5 and a bunch of 3s. But if you want to change that, let me know. If you got a lawyer buddy, whatever, we can do that too. Here's the closing cost. We're going to take that out of here because we can put it up top. And then in the top one, and then seller to repair hump and kitchen floor. And so this is where you put anything else. Like
There's another one I didn't add before we got started. It's that the flood insurance findings one. If you want to add that right quick.
What was that now?
Remember we talked about flood insurance.
Yeah. So let's talk about flood insurance. It may be in a flood zone. Have you guys gone to FEMA and checked it out?
No.
So FEMA flood maps. Go to FEMA. It's great. FEMA flood maps. If you type that in, pick the first link. This is where they go for flood insurance. What's the address again? I should see it.
7520 Amanda Circle.
Oh, I got to put in a place. What's the zip?
35802, is it?
Yes, that's correct.
We're going to be neighbors. All right. So here's the little flood map and let it load. It's its little flood zone. Oh wait, I got to pick. So this is picking the big one. So now what do I pick? Okay, there we go. So see that blue? That means it's in some sort of flood zone.
Okay.
What that means and how much, I can't tell you. Does that look like it's in the right dot? Right here, is it a cul-de-sac?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So blue is, let's see, we can look. Is and once again, remember, I want to go back to the contract. Remember up here where it says, you're not holding me accountable for anything? The disclaimer, part of this is flood zone or not. I think it says that in their word verbatim. So I'm going to show you where it's at, and this is what it is, and I'm pretty sure. But remember, call your insurance agent. He's the expert on that, not me. And you want to call anyway tomorrow and say, we're looking at this property. What's the flood insurance? And he'll tell you exactly what it's going to cost you a month. And so it looks like it's zone A, and I don't remember if that's 100-year, 500-year. This one's the 0.2 chance.
Yeah.
So it's in a flood zone. I just don't know how bad it is. So call and get the price. How about we leave it at that? Remember, I'm not an expert in flood zones. Noah is. He's really good, and I don't know anybody else. So yeah. So go check that out and make sure you're happy with it. What we can do is we can do 2 things. One, we can wait, and you can call. Do you have a good insurance agent?
We use USAA.
Okay. Are they pretty responsive?
Yeah,
Okay.
they're pretty good.
Call them and say, I'm looking at buying a home. Is it in there? Now, 3 areas you're going to save money when you buy a home: insurance, lenders, and the closing attorney. So you can shop that if you want on your insurance and see who can do better. I have a broker that has access to Alphas and State Farms and all of them, right? And he can shop you. He plugs it in his system and gets quotes from everything and can put together a great deal. So if you want to shop it, feel free. You can usually save 50
Okay.
you can save quite a bit a month actually on insurance. So what we can do is we can do two things. You can call in the morning before you sign this and think on a few of the numbers, get back to us, call him, see what the price is, and let us know yay or nay. Or we can write in here, the sale is contingent on buyer's satisfaction with the flood insurance yearly premium. If buyer is not satisfied, sale will be canceled and earnest money returned to buyer in full. So we can write something like that in.
Okay.
Yep. So either way you want to go is fine. And that's pretty much it. It's close. It's 11:07, so it was about 45 minutes. We're going to save. There's two other documents. They're super fast.
Do you want to talk about price while we're in here?
Let me hit these documents, and then we'll go back and talk that final price. Inspection addendum. This is adding in. So within 10 days, you're going to get an inspection. Notice down here, time is of the essence regarding this addendum. Because it says 10 days from the binding agreement date, you can go get all your inspections. It's going to add health and safety. It's going to add major structural defects that deny a substantial portion of the home's use or something to that effect. Let's see. A major defect is a defect that threatens structural integrity, shortens the life, or denies intended uses of a substantial portion of the property. So I was close. I had a good paraphrase. It's going to add hazardous things like fire and safety to it, etc. So it adds a few things in, and this whole paragraph explains the days back and forth. So at the end of you have 10 days to get all your inspections. At the end of the last day that you get your last inspection, whether that's day 2 or day 10, you have 3 days to put together a request for repairs. So if you do all your inspections on day 4 and you wait till day 13 thinking you have 10 plus 3 days to turn in your RFR, you've technically violated this and you've now accepted the home as is. That's the penalty for breaking time is of the essence, as is. And you have to go to closing. So we can fix that if you forget or we forget and we're on day 8 and you're like, oh, we're ready to turn this in. I'm like, oh, we're past our 3 days. Don't worry. It says a homeowner can do their own inspection. So on day 8, we'll drive over to the house and you can inspect it one more time yourself and make sure it's good. And there's your final inspection is your day. So we can get around some of those things. Then you'll turn in your request for repairs. They have 3 days to respond to it. Then if they don't sign it and agree to it and they counter you, then you have 2 days. And then in 2 days, and then 2 days, and 2 days, and 2 days. And you can just go back and forth until somebody cries uncle or quits and gets out of the deal. So that's the importance of this. It tells you the timeline to get through. Section 4A still is in full force and effect, right? That's the big one, 4A. Remember 4A. So that's there. You'll sign it. And the final one, we're going to send you an Excel spreadsheet, not the, is this a Excel?
No, it's a video.
Yep, that's perfect. We're going to send this in with the price. The state requires us to send you an estimate. They don't even look at the numbers when you get audited. The one that you get from the lenders is the one that matters. I've tried to make this one as close to the one you'll get from me as a lender as possible. But remember, the lenders have the real number. We don't. Every time the price changes and people sign up here, like say they agree to knock off $2,000 after the request for repair, it's down to $190, we'll send you a new one. Don't worry about the numbers from this sheet. If you see a number here and you're like, but Robbie, you said on your lending fee sheet it was this, I'm going to say ignore that one from Brandon. He's not a lender. He's just trying to get you a ballpark. So this is just to give you a ballpark, and that's it. So don't believe these. Believe what the lender gives you. And remember, I'm not giving this to you as a lender. That will be called a fee worksheet and say Southern Fidelity Mortgage Group. This is a standard template that has values and formulas for every number based off the sales price.
Got it.
Okay, make sure you understand that. All right, so there's the documents. At that point, we can just chat a little bit on the comps if you want to do that.
Yeah,